Let's try this. Oh, okay, the microphone is working. And okay, the microphone and sound is working. Welcome back. And we'll get started in just a moment.
Where's our people?
Oh, yeah. No, that's us plus one. Now it's just us. So we had people and no sound. Now we have sound and no people, but maybe they'll find us.
Yeah.
Okay.
How much about it?
Hey, as things go, that wasn't too bad. So do not say shut up.
More important.
Oh, okay. Well, you'll let me know if I start to say.
Sorry about the technical difficulties. We'll be getting started in just a minute. I'm glad that people are finding their way back to the live stream.
I presume you want this way. Facing. Yeah. I'm going to face this way. Yeah.
Friends, we're going to get started in just a minute. I really want to just express appreciation to everybody who started their fast early and came early so that we can do Kol Nidrei at a time when we can live stream. I know there's people who are not able to be here in person for health reasons and for personal reasons who are very appreciative that we're able to do this. And I know that it's a sacrifice on behalf of for everyone who started their fast 45 minutes early, but I know that it is one that is appreciated by everybody who's joining us on the live stream. So, and thank you to those of you who are joining us on the live stream. And we're going to get started with Kol Nidrei in just a moment. Nathan, if you want to.
Just two. Just two. And they go around while we do ours everywhere.
And Kol Nidrei begins on page 64.
Do we do our book?
You all, sorry. You can listen, you can real quick.
Oh, gosh.
Too late.
We're just going to go through the red.
I don't have to close the art now.
Yeah. Page 64.
Orzaru ala tzadik, uleishrei tzimecha. Orzaru ala tzadik, uleishrei tzimecha. Orzaru ala tzadik, Uleishrei tzimecha, orzaru ala tzadik, uleishrei tzimecha, orzaru ala tzadik, uleishrei tzimecha, orzaru ala tzadik, uleishrei tzimecha. Ay, nay, 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 nay. Ay, nay, 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 nay. Ay, nay, 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 nay. Ay, nay, 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 nay. Ay, nay, 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 ay, nay, nay, nay. Ay, nay, 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 nay. Ay, nay, nay, ay, nay, 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 nay. Ay, nay, 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 nay. Orzaru ala tzadik, uleishrei tzimecha. Orzaru ala tzadik, uleishrei tzimecha.
Page 66.
Aldat hamakom, ve'aldat hakahal, v'shiva shel ma'ala, u'v'shiva shel mata, anu matirim, להתפלל עם הווריינים. על דעת המקום ועל דעת הקהל, בשיבה של מעלה ובשיבה של מטה, אנו מתירים להתפלל עם הווריינים. על דעת המקום ועל דעת הקהל, בשיבה של מעלה ובשיבה של מטה, אנו מתירים להתפלל עם העבריינים. כל נדרי ויסרי ושבועי וחרמי וקונמי וכינוסי וכינוסי Adna Udishtabana Udaharimna Udasana Anavshatana Mio Kippurim ze Adio Kippurim haba Alleluia, letova, Sehuron, Icharadna vehon, Kulhon, Yehon Sharat, Shriki, Shriti, Beteilin Ubutali, La Sheriri, Vela Kayami, Nidrana, La Nidrei, Viesarana, La Sarei, Ushbuatana, La Shevuos, Kol Nidrei, Viesarei, Ushbuarei, Vecharamei, Vekonamei, Vekidusei, Vechiduyei, Indarna Udishtabana Udaharimena Udasana Anavshatana Miyom Kippurim ze Ad Yom Kippurim haba Alleluia, letova, Behuron, Icharadna vehon, Kulhon, Yon Sharat, Shriki, Shriki, Beteili Ubutali, La Sheriri, Vela Kayami, Nidrana, V'yesarana la'esarei Ushvuatana la'shevuot Kol Nidrei V'yesarei Ushvuei V'charamei V'konamei V'kidusei V'chinuyei Digarna Udeishtabana Ulakarimna Ulasarna Amnapshatana Miyom Kippurim Zeh Ad Yom Kippurim Haba Aleinu letova bechol hod icharadna vehod Kulot Yehon Shara Shaviki Shaviti Beteli Ubutali La sheriri vela kayami nidrana la nidrei v'yesarana la esarei ushvuatana la shevuot
Page 68.
V'nislach lecho adat b'nei Yisroel v'lager hagar betocha ki lechol ha'am v'yishkagaga v'nislach lechol adat b'nei Yisroel v'lager hagar betocha ki lechol ha'am v'yishkaga v'nisela lechol adat b'nei Yisroel v'lager hagar betocha ki lechol ha'am v'yishkaga.
Slav Lachol Israel, again, again,
סלח נא לעולם הזה כי גודל חסדך, וכאשר נשאת למזה ממצרים העב ידנה, ושם נאמן.
ויאמר אדוני זרעתי כי תורתו, ויאמר אדוני זרעתי כי תורתו, ויאמר אדוני זרעתי כי תורתו.
ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדבריך, ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדבריך, ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדבריך.
We will not say Shehechianu just yet, because that will mark the beginning of the fast for us, and we'll need to put the computer away before then and the live stream. So I'll ask that we open the Aron and put the Sefer Torah back, and we will continue with some messages from our. So time is running short, so I will invite our president, Dan Vianello, up for just a brief message. A brief but important message.
Gemar Chatima Tova. Welcome to our many people on the streaming thing and our full house, not quite full house. The important message, as Rabbi mentioned, is that it is that time of year again for someone here to mention the Yom Kippur appeal. You're probably used to seeing Larry come up. Turns out it was not a lifetime appointment for him to give the Yom Kippur appeal each year. He would always give a joke every year. He's downstairs. He and I discussed this also, but every year he would like to give his joke about how when he started coming here, he saw all the old men come up and give the Yom Kippur appeal, and that he all of a sudden became that next old man giving the Yom Kippur appeal. I refuse to take that title yet, but it's coming. What I do know, though, is that I've been here, a member of Bais Abe, for more than a third of my life. My kids have been a member here for their entire life. I look around the room and I know that there are people here who, some people who have been here less long than me, some people who have been here many years more than me. And you can then also, of course, see the plaques around the building, the Yizkor plaques of all of the many people loved and beloved who were members here, who have been members here in the 125 years plus that Bais Abe has been around. That only happens because of the generosity of all of us, those in the room, those on streaming, those who came before us, those who we hope to be in these seats later tonight, tomorrow, and next week, next year, and many, many more years to come. It is because of our support that we are able to do simple things like turn the lights on, or I'll adjust this. Sorry, I will adjust this. Replace the burnt out lights on that candelabra. Some things are easy. Some things are harder. So I would ask each of you, everyone, think about the time, be it short or long, that you've been here, and how important the shul, the community is to you, to your life over the years, and how much you would like to share that with kids, grandkids, friends' kids, friends' grandkids, and how much you are able to help support that. Think about not just what it means, think also of where you would like to see the shul go. Whether or not we want to have aspirational things like weekly lunch and learns. Those aren't cheap. So So my request for all of you is that you do think about how important the shul is, how important the community is, how much you would like to make sure that stays as a message for many, many years to come, and how you are able to help with that through your generosity, through your donations. The Yom Kippur Appeal is one of our 3 major fundraising incentives over the year. Over the course of each calendar year, we do our spring appeal, we do dues. People donate, of course, when they can. The Yom Kippur Appeal is also a very important part of it. So we don't ask for you to pay for tickets to be here. We do ask that you listen to me give this spiel. And so Larry would always, I'm going to reference Larry's quote, and he's not here, so this is easier, right? He's downstairs, actually, he's the greeter. That he would say, hopefully you're thinking of a number, and hopefully you can double it. I don't know if that's clearly not feasible for everyone every year, but whatever generosity you do have, the shul appreciates it, I appreciate it, the rabbi appreciates it, everyone else here appreciates it. Our ability for programming is better because of it. With that, I think I'll end my appeal.
Thank you, Dan. If I'm remembering correctly, at least the last couple of years, the line which I thought was serious, I didn't know it was a joke, was that maybe you can add a 0 to the number. That was the way I heard it. But different gear says 2 zeros. Yom Kippur I'm going to take. Yom Kippur is a day that is suffused with consciousness of death and mortality. It's present throughout the holiday, not just that we walk into synagogue and many people are following the custom of wearing white, which reminds us of the simple white garments that we will all wear someday when we go to our grave. Or that we look around the room as our entire community gathers together and we notice the seats that are empty, the people who were here this time last year who are not with us. Throughout the day, we have these reminders. The Torah reading for Yom Kippur, which is mostly just taken up with a description of what the Kohen Gadol would do in the temple on this day, it opens with the words Acharei Mot, after death, after the death of Aaron's sons. In this light, even the prohibition of eating and drinking, anointing, bathing, marital relations, these are not just ways of clearing our schedule so that we can focus on prayer and repentance, but they're ways of abstaining from earthly pleasures in the same way that someday we will abstain permanently from all of these pleasures. Because on this day, we are trying to cultivate a consciousness of the fact that we all know and we mostly kind of ignore as much and as we can for as long as we can, that we aren't here forever. When I think about mortality, the story that I return to over and over, more than any other, is the famous story of the death of Rav Zusha of Hanipol, who, as he was laying on his deathbed, you may have heard this story, he was crying, and nobody could comfort him. And his students said to him, Rav Zusha, why are you crying? What do you have to fear? In your lifetime, you're famous for your piety. You are as wise as Moshe Rabbeinu. You are as generous as Abraham Avinu. What could possibly you have to fear about facing the heavenly tribunal? And Rav Zusha famously replied, I'm not worried that they're going to ask me, why weren't you like Moshe? Why weren't you like Abraham? I'm worried that they're going to ask me, Zusha, why weren't you like Zusha? And I've heard this story told as a feel-good anecdote. about the importance of just being yourself, not holding ourselves to some external and unrealistic benchmark. But there's a very sobering aspect to this message. Zusha, the great tzaddik, whose profound faith and selflessness have made him a legend down to our own time, was himself disconsolate at the end of his life, believing he had failed to live up to who he was meant to be. It didn't matter how great his piety it was, or how many people told and retold his amazing displays of chesed. Zusha himself believed that he was not the man God meant him to be. That's very sobering. I mean, on the one hand, the story is letting us know we don't have to worry about being something that we don't have the capacity to be. If it's not within us to be as wise and learned as Moshe, or as kind as Abraham, or as pious as Zusha, we don't have to worry about it. That's not our lot. But if even Zusha, who was possessed of such innate spiritual capacities that he was compared to Abraham and Moshe, if even he failed to be himself, that means that just being ourselves is no simple thing. There are things we want to do and accomplish in our lifetime. There are ways we want to be that we on some level know we're fully capable of, and yet year after year we fail to act on, we fail to realize. Every one of us, I would venture, has something that we're sitting here regretting and intending to work on being better at next year, that we were sitting here regretting and intending to work on being better at last year and the year before and the year before. What is it that stops us from just doing those things that every year we say we want to do? Year after year we intend to do and fail to do. There are a number of things that get in our way, but I think perhaps the biggest, and the one that I want to focus on tonight, I'm simply going to call triage. I'm an impatient person, and there's nothing I like less than waiting in line. But there's one place on earth where whenever I've had to go there, I've been very, very, very happy to wait. The emergency room. Because if you go to the emergency room and they don't keep you waiting, something's really, really, really wrong with you. Something that cannot wait, because there's 20 people ahead of you waiting for appointments. And if you go to the front of the line, it's bad. So you go to the emergency room, they keep you waiting for 5 hours. It's a pretty good sign that you're not about to die. Pretty good sign. So, and the folks who work in the emergency room, they spend their days doing triage, figuring out who needs to go in first, what's most urgent, what's most important, and what can wait for later. And sometimes I feel like we're all triage nurses, all day, every day. Obligations and opportunities and demands come at us faster than we can possibly respond to them. And we somehow have to evaluate what's urgent, what needs my attention right now, what can wait till later, what can I let go entirely. But one crucial difference between life and the emergency room is that everybody in the emergency room is going to get seen eventually. And needs to get seen eventually. Whether it's immediately or 5 hours later or 12 hours later. But in life, we're not going to get to everything. We're not going to get to every email that comes through our inbox, much less every opportunity that comes our way in life. And so if we focus exclusively on doing what's most pressing and demanding in the moment, we'll never get to some of the things that are actually most important. And so another year goes by, And we never got around to becoming the person we really meant to be this year. If we're ever going to stop doing those things we keep saying we're going to stop doing, if we're ever going to do those things we keep saying someday I'm going to, we're going to have to say no to some other things. Very likely, if day after day, year after year, we're not getting to what's important, we're probably trying to do too much. The Talmud says, Tafasta harbe lo tafasta. Tafasta me'at tafasta. When you try to hold a lot, you don't hold anything. When you try to hold a little, you can hold it. We're all, in this day and age, more than I think ever in history, overloaded with demands on our time and attention. It's a wonder that people get anything done at all. It's not just work, commute, family, community obligations, or even the fact that more and more professions seem to come with the expectation that we're going to work after hours and on weekends, and we're going to check our email at 2 a.m. when our boss emails us. Thank you, Dan, for never emailing me at 2 a.m. Even more than that, with the invention first of the internet and now, more in recent decades, the smartphone, a process that maybe began with television or maybe with the telegraph, I don't know. A process has accelerated of filling every waking moment of our lives with intense stimuli and a demand on our attention. I don't know about you, but if I actually looked at how many hours a week I spend looking at a refreshing news page, looking at my phone, I would shudder at what could be accomplished in those hours. This past week at Judy Medoff, Zichrona Livracha's funeral, I overheard someone expressing wonderment at everything Judy used to do when she was working full-time as a professor at SLU. That here she is, she's a professor, she teaches, she does research, she's also a wife and a mother and raising 2 young kids, and then on top of all that, she's hosting dinner parties every week. How did she do it, they said. And I don't want to detract from Judy's accomplishment. That sounds very remarkable. But I don't think it's an accident that she was doing this 40 years ago or more, in an era before the internet, before the cell phone, before email and social media. All these things that are supposed to make our life easier, these technologies that are supposed to help us be more productive and more efficient, eat twice the time that they save us. For every minute they save us, they steal from us many more. And so today we're just more overloaded, just more overstimulated than we were a generation or 2 ago. Our phones and the various social media platforms were designed by the smartest people, some of the smartest people on earth, precisely to be as addictive as possible. And we take these things and we give them to our children and we put them in our pockets and we walk around with them and we think it's normal and healthy. It's no wonder that it's hard to drum up volunteers for, I'm not just talking about Bais Abe, but every organization I know is struggling to fill leadership roles, struggling to fill volunteer roles. With this, even if they're the same size they were 20 years ago, you don't have the same pool of volunteers because everybody is too busy looking at their phone for 5, 6, 8 hours a day to actually participate in the life of their community. And I'm not saying this to make anyone feel guilty or blame. We're all suffering from this. We're all victims here, I believe. If I took a poll of everyone in this room and asked, what are the most important things that you want to focus on this year? What do you want to really prioritize this year? I don't think any single one of us would say, I want to spend more time on the internet. I don't think anyone would say, I think it's really important that I engage with social media this year. That's a high priority in my life. Maybe if you're 13, you might say that. And yet, if we look at how we actually spend our time, how many hours are we spending looking at social media or online news, whatever it is? I don't know what, but we're doing all kinds of things that aren't helping us reach our goals, that aren't helping us be the people we know we're capable of being. You know, I remember maybe 10 years ago, I haven't really followed what they're saying now, but I know 10 years ago, you heard about these articles in the Haredi press saying things like, don't daven in a shul if the chazan owns a smartphone, right? Really against smartphones. And it seemed ridiculous at the time, but I kind of am sympathetic to that position, knowing what I know now, having owned a smartphone for the last 10 years. And it's not even about what content is accessible on these devices, but just the sheer, oh yes, we are running low on time. We'll wrap things up very, very quickly here. It's just the sheer distraction from who and what we are meant to be. So if we want to have any hope of being the people we were meant to be, we're going to need to have the time and spaciousness in our lives to ask ourselves what's really important. If every time we have a few free minutes, we're taking the phone out of our pocket, or we're sitting down in front of our computer to see what's happened on the news, we'll never have the time to even ask, let alone act on what we are really meant to be doing with our lives. If we want to make time to become the people we know we are capable of being, we're going to have to let go of some things. We're going to have to say no to things. Sometimes that's saying no to a boss or a family member or a friend or a neighbor who's asking us to do something that we really can't prioritize. And sometimes it's saying no to that device in my pocket pinging and telling me there's something very urgent and important I need to pay attention to on the internet. We need to learn to say no, and that's why we begin Yom Kippur by saying Kol Nidrei, by saying any vows we are going to make, we renounce. We're going to say no to things that we feel committed to that we realize are not in the interest of actually being the person we're meant to be. When we let go, not only of bad habits, but even neutral or good habits that are preventing us from cultivating our best selves, only then can we be free to be who we were meant to be. And do we have any hope of looking back at the end of our lives, whether it's in 40 years or, God forbid, this year, and say, with no fear, I was who I am meant to be. We're going to turn the computers off and turn off the stream and put the laptop away, and we will continue with Shehechianu and Mariv in just a moment.